a lot of people go to hemp seed oil or, shelled hemp hearts for a source of omega-3 fatty acids.
Okay.
And so the seed has those within it so that it can start producing the cannabinoids once it, starts growing. So it's this really fascinating process where the plant also needs the same chemical to produce its cannabinoids as we need to produce ours. And you can also get that from the plant.
CBD, or cannabidiol, is an important constituent of the hemp plant, and it's all the rage now in terms of helping our health. From CBD tinctures to lotions to even gummies for your pets, it's hard to go anywhere without seeing products that advertise CBD. But how do you know which CBD products are good quality, how much to take, and for which health conditions? Today, we are diving into the world of CBD to better understand what it is and how it can benefit your health. I am Dr. Andrew Wong, co-founder of Capital Integrative Health. This is a podcast that is dedicated to transforming the consciousness around just what it means to be healthy and understanding the root causes of both disease and wellness. Today's guest is Sean Rose, a clinical herbalist with a focus on herbal mental health management for conditions including depression, anxiety, and ADHD, and effective use of medical cannabis. Join us for a conversation with Sean about how CBD can help with anxiety, insomnia, pain, and lowering inflammation, and how to identify quality CBD products for your health. All right, Sean, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
And so let's talk first about how you became interested in herbal medicine. You are co-founder of an apothecary. You work at different apothecaries too.
I do a lot of different stuff, as we were talking before we started recording. I'm a co-founder of Strobe Apothecary in Crofton, Maryland. We're super small, only about a year and a half, I think, into business.
18 months.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Something around there. So I do that. I also work for a small apothecary in Owings Mills called Hue Apothecary. They're like a vegan cafe, and I do the apothecary desk. So if you're near Owings Mills...
HUE?
HUE, yes.
Okay.
It's a big deal, actually. They just won a big old prize. It's like a Black-owned business.
Nice.
Husband and wife team, co-owners. Just super cool stuff that they're doing over there.
Awesome.
And then I also have my own clinical business, so it's Tenderhearted Integrative Wellness Services. Right now I only have 2 practitioners, myself, a clinical herbalist, and my friend Bonnie, who is also a co-founder of Strobe, who is a crystal healer, advanced crystal master.
Nice.
So that's what she does, and we're working together on building it out into a more established sort of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you combine the crystals with the herbs? Is there some interaction there, or is it something you do on the evals?
Well, I would want you to get Bonnie on here to talk about it because she's so knowledgeable. Mm-hmm. She actually combines her crystal healing with Reiki, but she herself is also kind of an herbalist of her own right. She doesn't do so much clinical sort of stuff, but she works with herbs every single day.
Yeah.
And I think she would probably tell you that the crystals are the foundation for the herbs. They're the rocks that are underneath the plants. So it's more of a deeper level, which is probably why some people don't respond to it so well. They can't grasp the subtlety. I don't know.
Yeah, and you need the minerals to nourish the plants.
Yes.
So
and a lot of those minerals are found in the plants, and we also have several isolated minerals that we use as medicines all the time. Lithium is in lepidolite, for instance. That's one that Bonnie taught me.
Yeah. I love this conversation already because we know that plants are really a big foundation of health.
Yes.
And a lot of times, even in what I would say is modern industrialized medicine, we might kind of get away from that or think we're getting away from that. But sometimes if you go around the maze, you come back to the very beginning.
Absolutely. And a lot of I think you're really speaking to something here. A lot of our prescription medications that we have are isolated plant compounds or isolated mineral compounds. It's pretty common
A really common one is metformin from French lilac.
Yep.
It's an amazing.
I didn't know that was from lilac.
It's a beautiful flower.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
So it's become one of my favorite meds. And
Yeah.
then I'm looking at it like, oh, this is actually just derived from a natural compound, and I think it's in a way very integrated like that.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I always like lean on the example of like digoxin from foxglove, you know, which, oh gosh, that's a whole another box to open, but
yeah,
tremendously poisonous herb, but in super tiny doses, very medicinal.
The dose makes the medicine.
Yes, it does.
All right, awesome. And let's give a shout out to Christine, who's our connector.
Yes.
She's awesome. She's our practice administrator and friend of yours.
Yes, I love Christine. She's
Yes.
just such a sweet soul, and she's always taking care of everybody. And
she was at Smile with you.
she was
and
at
then,
Smile with me. She was my
Yeah.
manager, and when she actually came to work for you, I then took her place as the assistant manager of that store for a little while.
She mentored you and kind of.
Yes, she did.
Nice.
She really did, and got me like up to speed really quick on all of the intricacies of running that shop.
Yeah, she just finished her herbal training, at
with
least the
MASH.
basic part. Yeah, which is great. Yeah,
Yes, so she's going to be like your kind of herbal connect here.
that's right.
I love that.
That's awesome.
She's so smart.
She's so great. So shout out to Christine.
Hey, Christine, I love you.
And let's kind of go deep dive into the SR Sean Rose stories here.
Sure.
Chapter 1. How did you become interested in herbal medicine yourself? Your evolution. How did you become a clinical herbalist yourself?
So that's a really long story. As I told you also before we started recording, I have ADHD. So I've kind of bounced around in my life. I've done a lot of different things. Where to start? I think I started working with herbs really as a child. I just remember always wanting to be like a potion maker, or like, having like a bowl of just grass and weeds and
Like, so not just Merlin, but like Merlin on the earth or something.
Kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. Like, I've just always interacted with plants and found them like tremendously nourishing. I didn't really know what herbalism was until much later in life, but as a kid, I think the first herb that I ever interacted with was willow, because I had this gigantic
Tree.
willow tree in my yard when I lived in West Virginia.
Nice.
We lived like in a river valley. The soil was so nourishing, I guess, to this weeping willow that it grew enormous, and its branches touched the ground, and I would go inside of its branches basically and like hang out there as a child, and it was my little protective spot, my little sanctuary.
That's awesome.
I think.
Yeah.
Over time, like my mother used a few herbal remedies with me growing up. She would put tea tree essential oil in my shampoo and, do that sort of thing. She would always make me drink tea when I got sick. Unfortunately, it was like Lipton tea, which I hate. But, I did interact with herbal medicines that way. I quickly developed a love for chamomile for myself, as kind of an anxious,
Very calming.
depressive type of person. Chamomile was really helpful for me, and I've even used it topically. Like I had a big old scar on my nose. You can't see it anymore because I put chamomile on it every single day for a month, actually, and it ended up going away. So that's part of my story. Eventually, through a bunch of different jobs, I was an English teacher abroad for a little bit, and so I learned how to like teach people. Something told me that I needed to go work in the produce department at Mom's Organic Market.
Yeah,
Or
Mom's.
really just any produce department.
Yeah.
I applied at a few different places, but Mom's was the place that I eventually like went to and started working with the produce there, learning a lot more about food as medicine, and specifically plant food as medicine. And I was just so interested in all of the different fruits and vegetables. And
Do
how
they have a training program there, or they have some sense of, as a
No.
worker there?
Well, so if you work in the wellness department,
Right.
definitely you get a lot of access to trainings.
Right.
The produce department, you don't really. It was kind of extracurricular on my part.
Taste everything. Little.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Taste everything. Learn
Yeah.
what the tastes mean.
Yeah.
Learn what actually like viewing the plant itself or the produce itself means. If you see red berries, there's flavonoid content, or blue, blueberries,
Yeah.
tons of flavonoid content because that's the color of the flavonoid. Yeah, it was definitely, like I said, more extracurricular, I think, on my part.
Interest, yeah.
I did eventually go work in the wellness department there too, and that's where I started learning a little bit more about supplementation and what that was and what all the different herbs in the wellness department were. And it informed a lot of like what I was doing for a little while. Okay, so then I got a job at a dispensary, medical cannabis dispensary in Silver Spring. It's Rise in Silver Spring. Shout out to my team there.
Rise.
They're great people, much smarter than me when it comes to cannabis.
Where in Silver Spring?
It's on Fenton Street.
Okay, right in downtown.
Right in downtown.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And it's the general manager and the assistant general manager and a few of the supervisors are people who like trained me in cannabis, and they are just so smart. They're actually, two of them at least I know are about to graduate or have graduated recently from the cannabis program at the University of Maryland, College Park.
Okay.
So,
I didn't know they had a program too.
Yeah, it's kind of new. So anyway, I started working with cannabis. Part of cannabis, you learn the cannabinoids, of course, which this conversation will mostly be about, but then you learn about terpenes. Terpenes are these volatile oils that kind of influence the effect of the cannabinoids. And I found out those terpenes are in all these other plants. So like linalool is in lavender, beta-caryophyllene is in black pepper. And these are compounds that appear pretty commonly in cannabis as well and influence, like I said, the effects of the cannabinoids around them. So,
would it be accurate to say they're first cousins, second cousins, distant family reunion? Plants?
I don't know because cannabis has its own. It's in its own family, Cannabaceae, which it only shares that with hops. Hops and cannabis, as far as I understand, are like the only two plants in that category. But then lavender is a type of mint. I believe it's in the mint family. And I mean, there's other plants like chamomile. Alpha bisabolol is a terpene there, which gives it its soothing effect, and that's in the aster family. So it's also a totally kind of different family.
I was making that point because in a way, the earth, nature, healing is redundant. There's some
you get it from everywhere.
Provision, right? And you can get it from different places depending where you live and your
you don't
environment
necessarily
and stuff.
need this plant to do that thing. There is another plant.
There's some other alternative somewhere else.
Exactly.
Got it.
So anyway, that got me started on my herbalism track. Kind of, I went from the dispensary to working at an herb shop where I met Christine, and eventually then I went to the Maryland University of Integrative Health, where I got my master's degree in clinical herbal medicine. And a common thread weaving through that whole story that I just told you is really my own mental health. I think that that's really, at the end of the day, why I got into herbal medicine. Because I had taken like antidepressants and other medicines, and all of them had, I found out I'm a very sensitive person to those medicines, and they had very heavy effects on me that I didn't like. So I learned about the plants and the medicines they offer to sort of either supplement a medication that I might be taking, or, in the absence of that, at least give myself stable ground to stand on.
Nice.
So actually, like on Instagram now, I'm working on like branding myself as at mental health herbalist because I want to focus my efforts on holistic mental health.
We need so much more of that. I think even before the pandemic and now even more, right? It's
Yes.
just kind of getting back to, we've had a lot of social isolation, a lot of disconnect from the earth, I would say, in the past couple years. And I think this is a real opportunity for us to reconnect.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. Especially as, I mean, like, I don't know if you saw all the news stories back there, when we went into lockdown for a few months, like the air got cleaner and
dolphins started swimming in like
right.
Venice or
the
something
birds
like that.
came back,
Right.
And then it all fell away again.
Then it polluted again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah. So herbs, it sounds like, have been a professional inspiration and also a personal benefit for you, both, and certainly that personal and professional interlink and interplay together.
Right.
And now, just if you don't mind me asking, how do you feel like your mental health is with all the different things you know now? And
I'm still learning every day.
Sure.
Especially as I've gone on to actually seek diagnosis with psychiatrists or psychiatric nurse practitioners and stuff, other professionals. I found out that I shouldn't have been medicated for depression the whole time because it was really just the ADHD. So now I'm taking a rather low dose ADHD medication, and then I supplement that with my herbal medicines to keep myself focused, keep myself energized.
This is like a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Herbs for mental health.
Yes,
really.
and I'm happy to come back and talk about it. But I'm learning more every day, for real. So, yeah, it's really turned almost into like a spiritual practice for me, and it's it's really rewarding to be working with tools that I know will help people, that I know have helped me, that I feel like I have some intuitive sense of, if someone's telling me what's wrong with them, typically I'm like, I have 3 herbs for that,
Yeah. Well, it's rare to invite someone back before we talk about the main topic, but here we
course.
are. You're invited back, so we'll talk more about.
I'm inviting myself back. That's okay.
Awesome. Yeah. Mutual invitation.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the plant. I was going to say meat, but it's a plant, so it's a meaty plant.
It is.
What is CBD, cannabidiol? What is its mechanism in our body? If you could just kind of walk our listeners through the basics of what that is and how it interacts with cannabis.
Sure. So I think the best place to start with any cannabinoid medicines is the fact that we have a whole system of receptors in our body called the endocannabinoid system. It's called the endocannabinoid system because we found out that cannabis compounds interact with it, but your body actually produces its own endocannabinoids that serve a lot of functions in the body. So a lot of people refer to like the runner's high. If people are running, sometimes they get this kind of high feeling, and it's due to the release of this endocannabinoid that your body produces called anandamide. Ananda meaning bliss.
So endorphins and anandamide are synonymous?
like endorphins.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're I couldn't tell you if they're the exact same thing, but I do know that they, especially anandamide, delivers kind of a similar effect.
Time to go running later then. Yeah.
I wish.
Except it rained today, so
Exactly.
depending on how many puddles are out there.
Drove through a whole tornado just to get here. So CBD in particular is just one of these cannabinoids. And I was talking about anandamide a second ago. Anandamide interacts with the body like THC does. CBD doesn't exactly have an analog in our body in quite the same way. I definitely have heard some people say that it kind of mimics a compound called 2AC, but I'm not so sure. And I'm not a chemist, so I definitely know the therapeutic effects a little bit more. My vision of CBD is that it it helps the endocannabinoid receptors in your body sort of open up to accept cannabinoids, whether those are phytocannabinoids from a plant or endocannabinoids from your own body, better. So that's, I think, why we see such a kind of non-specific effect with CBD, where it's helping regulate a lot of things in your body like pain or sometimes hunger, although I think THC has more of an effect on hunger, temperature. The endocannabinoid system is responsible for the regulation of what we would call homeostasis, or the kind of the neutral position of the body, and all of its processes. So CBD effectively helps your body regulate its own processes better.
It helps homeostasis, kind of opens our bodies up to healing. Is that kind of...
Opens your body up to the compounds that it produces to keep itself leveled out.
Yes. And we know that, in more integrative and naturopathic medicine, et cetera, that there's this idea that there's an innate healer inside of us, right? And that sounds like the healer is, a big component is cannabinoids.
I would say it's a very large component, absolutely, especially in these times we live in where there's just stress at every turn. I think it's a very important part, or at least understanding how it works, nourishing your endocannabinoid system in some way, whether that's through ingesting plants that have similar compounds or, it's a very important part, I would say.
I think it's worth repeating because we've had another friend on here before, Dr. Misha Kogan, who is the author of a medical cannabis book, and he's very into cannabis as well. And I think what people don't know, even doctors don't know a lot about it yet, I think, in terms of what you just said before a couple minutes ago, which is that we have our own natural endocannabinoid system, right? So we've had this sort of regulatory bodies that's saying, oh, there's cannabis and should it be legal or not, and things like that. But at the end of the day, we have cannabinoid receptors.
Our body is set up to interact with this
plants,
herb.
Or like you said, the endocannabinoid, the endogenous cannabinoids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it actually kind of baffles me sometimes that it's even scheduled.
Right.
I mean, that's another podcast.
Yeah. Well, the conference I went to a couple of years ago at GW was there was a big chart there, and it was great because it basically showed sort of the toxicity levels and risk and things, and certainly cannabinoids are definitely considered less risky than some of the common things like alcohol. Alcohol is legal, but alcohol causes lots of liver problems, brain disorders, and certainly drunk driving and all the rest, right? So these are things that are out there that are legal.
It's a much safer way to relax at the end of the day, especially CBD being. Some people will tell you it's not psychoactive. I don't know if I would agree with that necessarily. It's psychoactive, but it's calming. It's not like a high psychoactive.
Okay, so it calms,
Yeah, so it has effect on the mental state. But
got it.
It's so much better for you, I think, at the end of the day.
It's psycho-calming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Calms the psycho within me.
Well, since we're on the topic of calming the psycho or psyche, depending on how you think about it, how does CBD interact with different conditions, including, just kind of do a laundry list here, anxiety, pain, sleeping issues, and then I think a big one, I think a lot of listeners are also interested in, is how it might lower inflammation in different ways.
Yeah, so those processes are all wrapped up in the receptors and how those are working. So, like I said, in my view, therapeutically, CBD kind of opens the body up to accept more of these other cannabinoids or other things that interact with the cannabinoid receptors to have effects. So, for instance, like you mentioned, the lowering inflammation, one of the key things is that CBD interacts with vanilloid receptors, which is shortened to something that starts with a T that I can't remember at this moment, but it's a capsaicin receptor. And we know, we use capsaicin very often for pain relief, especially as an herbalist, what we would view as cold conditions or cramping, that sort of thing. But CBD interacts with those vanilloid receptors, which are inherently like anti-inflammatory. As far as anxiety, pain, and insomnia, well, actually, the pain I can also speak to because that's also regulated through the vanilloid receptor as well. The vanilloid receptors kind of regulate, I think it's called nociception, which is the perception of pain. So CBD kind of helps you, it doesn't exactly take the pain away, but it helps you not perceive it as much, if that makes sense.
So like CBD and acupuncture would be the perfect combination.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, a lot of like massage therapists use CBD balms and things like that to plug into those receptors. It's really what you're doing, and you're helping calm the spasms and reduce the inflammation. So that's why it's helpful on like a wide variety of types of pain and inflammation. As far as anxiety and insomnia are concerned, that's also kind of more of an interaction, I believe, with CBD than the CBD itself. It's CBD kind of opening these receptors so that you can accept more anandamide.
So I have a question. What if someone, and we don't have a lab test for this, but what if someone is chronically stressed physically or psychologically, their 2-AG or anandamide levels, these endogenous cannabinoid products that we make, might get depleted. So if you're saying CBD is opening up to be more receptive to our own endogenous cannabinoids, but what if that person maybe listening out there even doesn't have a high level of endogenous cannabinoids, would CBD help that?
I think so, because it would help accept
whatever's
actually there, first of all. Yes. And then that's a great question. I believe that there are ways to help nourish the endocannabinoid production within the body as well. I know that they're built from like omega fatty acids.
Back to the fats.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's very important. And well, you can even observe this in the hemp plant or the cannabis plant itself.
Okay.
A lot of people go to hemp seed oil or, shelled hemp hearts for a source of omega-3 fatty acids.
Okay.
And so the seed has those within it so that it can start producing the cannabinoids once it, starts growing. So it's this really fascinating process where the plant also needs the same chemical to produce its cannabinoids as we need to produce ours. And you can also get that from the plant.
All right. Getting right to the root then.
Exactly.
For both the plant and ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah. I feel like it does come back to plants, even if it's like, oh, we're eating fish, but then the fish got to eat the algae for the omega-3s, right? So it's kind of like that with hemp, it sounds like. Yeah.
It's all the circle of life.
Yeah. What about insomnia? Have you found either personally or professionally in your herbal practice that, people with different types of insomnia? The most famous is probably cell phone induced insomnia or,
Well, sleep hygiene is always going to be important to insomniacs, and it's often the hardest thing to curb because many of us insomniacs like to stay up late watching TV or playing a video game or sitting on their phone, watching videos, whatever. So CBD absolutely can help, but you have to also make sure that you're taking care to practice good sleep hygiene, shutting off any blue light, an hour or two before bed, trying to calm down with maybe another activity like reading or
yoga nidra,
right?
Like
exactly. Meditation even.
So this is profound. You're saying that it won't turn off your cell phone for you.
It's not going to do that. Yeah. I haven't found a supplement that will turn off your cell phone yet, but I really wish there was one because I could use a break from that thing sometimes.
Yeah.
But yes, CBD does help insomnia, and I would say like it's kind of one of the more vital of the cannabinoids to be present if you're really focusing on sleep. They work better in concert with each other, first of all. But like even if you're just getting like a purified CBD, it's going to be better to take a high dose of the CBD, which is different for every person, and it also depends on how long you've been taking the CBD. But yeah, typically if I have someone coming in saying, I never sleep and I want to use CBD to help, I might put them on a 20 milligram dose right away.
Yeah.
Typically I'll start a little smaller, maybe like 10 or 15 to see how it affects them first. But I know that with CBD specifically, the higher dose will really help with the sleep.
What are you thinking about, like at a ceiling or higher dose
Well,
for milligrams of straight CBD?
So that's a complicated
and this
question.
is not a treatment podcast.
Right.
Let's just put that out there as a disclaimer.
Please take this as educational.
Talk to your practitioner.
Please talk to your practitioner because they will actually help you dose out for your body.
Yeah.
And work, typically the first dose we give isn't always the correct one anyway.
And everybody's different.
Everyone's different.
Yeah.
Everyone has different amounts of endocannabinoid receptors and different influences there, of course. But yeah, I think that like with pure THC, pure CBD, it's important to note that like, again, that piece that I stated back there, the cannabinoids will work better in combination with other cannabinoids, but as well as terpenes, flavonoids, or whatever that are found in the plant.
Okay.
So with pure THC, or if you're using a purified like distillate version of CBD. I keep saying THC. If you're working with a purified form of it, it's going to be less effective. So you're going to need a higher dose.
Okay.
First and foremost. Now, if you can get it in a full spectrum extract or you extract it in a different type of way where it has good terpenes with it, like the ones that I would look for sleep are myrcene, which helps the body feel heavy.
Okay.
Beta-caryophyllene, which kind of works similarly to CBD in many ways and actually does plug into CB2 receptors. So it interacts with the endocannabinoid system. And linalool, which is in lavender as well. But that's another kind of like sleepy terpene. So, and there's other terpenes as well, but you try to find a CBD product that has some terpenes, preferably those. And also, if you have access to medical card or even a recreational market that sells CBD, look for like a 1-to-1 ratio of CBD to THC, if that's possible, where you're located in your budget, because the THC will help that CBD. It basically like helps you feel it more.
Okay. And
the beautiful thing is that THC and CBD actually work against each other in many ways, so they level each other out.
They balance.
Yeah. A lot of the bad effects that people have associated with THC, CBD will kind of take away,
right.
Paranoia and things like that.
Right.
So it's just better. The more of those things that you can find in a single product, I'm going to say the better.
So I think you answered that question for, which forms are best, how, getting a high quality project. It sounds like you want ideally a product that's full spectrum.
Yes.
More so?
Okay. Yeah. It obviously depends on who you are, what your job is, whether you get tested, all sorts of different factors. And I would say there's even companies that I would trust more with a more isolated extract than others even. So you kind of have to just use some discernment when you're doing your shopping.
I think we could probably ask you what companies, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So like I actually was recently working with a active duty police officer who gets drug tested but has tremendous pain. So what I recommended for that person was CV Sciences. They make the Plus CBD brand. They've been in the business for a really long time, even since before hemp was legalized with the Farm Bill.
Okay.
They have a great purification process that also includes a lot of the terpenes that are necessary for the CBD to really work. So they have a few different labels. They have a gold label, a green label, and a brown label. The gold label and the green label are probably what I would recommend for people that need zero chance of testing positive, for THC. The raw, which is the brown, as I understand, they extract that from the, it's a more full spectrum, I guess, extract than the others. And sorry, CV Sciences, if I'm not explaining this properly, but
CV Sciences,
yes,
they're good.
Yeah, the gold label, especially for pain, it's an internal oil. There's also CBD salve options or like topical creams and things. And if you find a good company that does that sort of thing, especially if you're dealing with pain or something even located in a specific place, like
go local.
Stomach issues, you can take the CBD internally and then also use a topical directly on your stomach.
Okay.
My favorite topical that I use that's a totally non-THC topical is the pain relief salve from District Herbs here in
the
Washington,
District of
D.C.
Columbia. Okay.
And that's a small company. I'm friends with the herbalist who runs it, and it's just a wonderful product. I use it pretty often
District
myself.
Herbs.
District Herbs,
Great,
yes.
Great to know. Thank you. Well, how important is organic, or in terms of that either certification or some sort of process there?
I would say it's more important if you're doing internal consumption methods. I don't know. There's all sorts of problems with the organic program here in the United States.
Yeah, it's another rabbit hole.
That's another rabbit hole that we could go down. But I think, it's going to be a little bit more important for internal products, just because a lot of people, since it's such a cash grab kind of thing that you can do now, anyone can get into CBD and make like decent money if they're smart enough. You have to use some discernment again and make sure that you're finding a product that the plants were raised without pesticides, because you don't want to be consuming any of that. A lot of that stuff will come out in the extraction process.
Yeah, and it's concentrated.
And it's concentrated then, right? So you really just want to make sure that you research the company that you're looking at, see how they do their processing. Some people don't even work with the plant itself. They buy a distillate, isolate CBD, and then combine it with other things.
They're not really in touch then.
Well, the product that I just talked about is one of those products, but it works because it's combined with the proper other plants to help it work better. Okay. But also she does work with a grower that she knows. So she's doing the sourcing for you, Yeah. So I would say it's going to depend on a few different factors, but always, if you're using a CBD product, get to know the company, I think. Yeah. First and foremost, what's their story? How do they do things?
Kind of like if you're going to a farmer's market, it's nice to know who the farmer is, where they grow, and even like how they nurture their crops and everything like that.
It really tells you, if people take care of their plants, then the medicines from those plants will be better.
And they'll take care of you.
Exactly.
Do you have any recommended resources? Actually, before we go to resources, let's go to the risk question, because I think that's always a question. A lot of people out there are kind of like, why should I take CBD? I don't know much about it. I know that, people don't know. So are there any risks? What would you say about that question?
There are some slight risks associated with CBD. It's definitely going to be more about if you're on other prescription medications. CBD by itself, or in concert with other things, has very few side effects, but it does have some interactions with the cytochrome P450 enzyme system in the liver, which affects some processing of some medications. I know that system is extremely complicated, so I don't have any hard and fast rules in my back pocket, but I do know I typically tell people, like, if your medication says don't eat grapefruit, maybe you also shouldn't take any gigantic doses of CBD. Maybe keep it to very small microdoses or something like that.
Okay, because that same system interacts.
Yeah. I just don't want to. I want to make sure that, like, if people are taking their prescription medications, that those medications are working to their full effect, because we want it to work faster so that we can eventually get them off of it, hopefully.
Right.
Many of my clients have that goal. So yeah, I would just be careful. Just do some research. Maybe talk to your doctor.
Yeah.
Although a lot of doctors don't know much about CBD.
No, they don't.
So I don't know. Find someone who you can trust to talk about CBD with, who can look into the data. I would really worry about like metabolic medications mostly. Anything affecting the liver, anything affecting the heart or the pancreas or anything
cardiac,
like that.
cholesterol meds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would worry about those first and foremost.
Yeah, I think we'll have our pharmacist circle back on that.
Good. Yes, I would love that.
Yeah.
I will listen.
Yeah.
Get my information straight there.
Awesome. Well, and then do you have any recommended resources for our listeners to kind of learn more about CBD, kind of get started and things?
Yes, there are several great people in the field right now. One of the people who I've listened to that's really informed a lot of my perspectives, not only in cannabis, but actually in herbal medicine in general, is Dr. Ethan Rousseau, who talks about the entourage effect, which is the synergistic effect between terpenes, cannabinoids, and I think other plant compounds as well, alkaloids and whatnot. So he's one person that you can kind of research. He has a lot of talks on YouTube, a lot of papers published where you can really learn not just about the cannabinoids, but then also about the terpenes and how they interact. I also really like leafly.com as just like a entry point if you're just starting to learn about these things.
Okay.
They have a lot of great articles that they keep updated about specific cannabinoids, about specific terpenes. They'll even tell you what strains they come in sometimes. They have a lot of great information. And the next person that I would recommend would be Dr. Sulak, who I'm fortunate enough actually to share a client with. But he's a big deal in the cannabis community. As he runs a company called Healer, I think it's just called Healer.
The online company, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I know he has products in the Maryland market, at least, probably elsewhere too, but he has like tinctures, for instance, that have not only the CBD, but also some THC, some THCA, some CBDA, which are other forms of these cannabinoids that also have their own benefits as well. But he has also he does webinars. He has so much great information on his website as well.
Dr. Sulak.
Dr. Sulak,
okay.
Yeah.
Great. And then, Sean, what is one thing you wish people knew about CBD? Just like the take home,
First and foremost, I think I just have to kind of harp on what I've been saying this whole time, which is like CBD by itself is not going to do much for you. So if you get a CBD isolate and it's literally nothing but CBD, don't complain when it doesn't do anything for
you. It's like a violin without the rest of the orchestra,
right?
Kind of thing.
Or like a violin even without the bow. Without the bow.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, it is beautiful, but
it's pretty. It can make music. It can have this effect, but you kind of need something with it, Yeah. I just feel like so many people take CBD like an isolate or a product made from an isolate that they just go to the gas station and get a CBD product, and then they say, well, it doesn't work for me.
It might be the worst place to get CBD.
It's the worst place. Okay. Don't buy any cannabis products.
Take-home message.
From a gas station, please. It horrifies me.
Or a hair salon.
Or in a hair salon,
which,
right.
They're great, but like I said, I went to the hair place and there was some CBD
Love
there.
my hairdressers. It probably does great things for your hair, but they can't tell you a thing about it, probably.
Yeah.
Unless they're very well-informed hairdressers.
Unless they also work at a cannabis dispensary.
And who knows? I bet they're out there.
Yeah, that's true.
You just got to find them.
Multiple hats, jack of all trades.
Exactly.
It's possible, yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much, Sean, for coming on today. We always ask our guests to close some fun questions.
Yes.
So this is a special question for you as a clinical herbalist. So let's say you were flying or walking or on the ship to a desert island.
Okay.
And you had to take your bag with you, and you had this might be a hard question.
It's probably going to be a hard question.
But you had to pack 3 herbs with
Okay.
you. What would they be?
Very good question. And I should say before that something that I learned when I was first learning herbalism is it's better to have or to know 100 uses for one herb than it is to know 100 herbs with one use. So I'm going to have to pick some herbs that are very multi-talented. I think the first one I would say is chamomile. It's widely available, easy to access, delicious, calming, very anti-inflammatory. It has a chemical in it called alpha-bisabolol, I think I mentioned earlier, that soothes inflammation. And honestly, it's in my family, I'm kind of famous for like just throwing chamomile at all of my problems. You know,
So you have 100 uses for it.
I probably do,
Yeah.
if you make me count them out. Let's see. So that one. My other one would probably be rose in some form. My last name is Rose, so we always make the joke that that was
There
like
you go.
kind of my herb that called me to it. But I like rose again as a kind of a gentle supporter for the whole body. It's very lightly astringent, so it helps your tissues kind of stay tight, prevents leakage. It helps tonify mucous membranes, along with a few other herbs like cinnamon and marshmallow. It is lightly carminative, so it can help with like gas pain. It can help release that. And it also is cardiotonic very lightly, so it just gently supports the heart. In herbalism, in clinical herbalism, we definitely look at the physical heart as the same as the emotional heart. So
A lot of emotions are stored in the heart. We know the heart is the second or third brain, depending on what you're...
Exactly.
And the rose is amazing in here.
I love it.
Really
So that's probably my second herb.
Okay, chamomile rose.
Let's see, my third herb. That's really hard. You know, I use a lot of nervines, so herbs that will affect the nerves. Actually, I might even have to say hawthorn, which is another herb in the rose family. So it actually has a lot of cardiotonic effects. We use either the berry or the leaf. The berry is very important in a lot of different traditional medicine cultures. So in Chinese medicine, they see hawthorn berry as bringing the shen back into the body, the shen being the spirit of like the mind almost. So a lot of herbalists observe that hawthorn berry, while it's useful for conditions of the heart, of course, and like strengthening the heart muscle, also will help in conditions like autism, ADHD, just helping to provide like a more calm emotional environment inside. So maybe I think that might be my third herb, and those are probably my 3 most used herbs for myself, among many others. Awesome. It's hard to narrow a list down to 3, but
yeah, sounds like a great beach vacation there with.
Yeah, it would taste good at least.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. Well, Sean, thank you so much for coming on today. How can listeners learn more about you and work with you?
So you can find me on Instagram. My handle is @mentalhealthherbalist. That's all one word.
Okay, mental health herbalist.
Mental health herbalist. I am currently building a website that should be up and running by the time this comes out. It's tenderhearted.love, tenderhearted.love.
That's so cool with that .love suffix.
Yeah, I stole that from a few other herbalists.
Okay, so all right, hey.
They were hip to it, and I was like, I like that, and I'm gonna.
Nothing's original. No need to reinvent the wheel.
Exactly.
It's been out there.
And you know, we're trying to spread the love here.
Yeah.
So that's one way you can reach me. If you're in and around Baltimore, come see me on Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 11 to 6 currently at least at Hugh Apothecary and Cafe. Also, if you like vegan food, they do great like vegan soul food. And
is that downtown or?
No, it's
outside?
in the county.
In the county?
It's in Owings Mills, right on Dolefield Road.
Okay.
So right off of Reisterstown Road.
Okay. Nice.
And please come see me at Strobe Apothecary. We have very limited open hours at the moment because we are volunteers. We don't get paid for the work that we do, but we love what we do. And we want to pay ourselves, so we need more sales. So come visit me. I'm there on Thursdays from 12 to 5 and some select Saturdays.
Nice.
And lastly, if you ever just want to like talk to me at all, I keep my email inbox open. I love talking about herbs. It's all I do all day, every day. So you can email me at Sean@tenderhearted.love.
Sean@tenderhearted.love.
Yes, and I spell my name the correct way. It's SEAN.
For all those other Seans out there, apologies.
I love you. I love you, other Seans, but you know that I'm right.
Great. Thank you so much, Sean.
It's my pleasure.
SEAN. Thank you so much for
thank you,
coming on
Dr.
today.
Wong.
Nice
I appreciate it.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to us today. If you enjoyed this conversation, please take a moment to leave us a review. It helps our podcast to reach more listeners. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next episodes and conversations. And thank you so much again for being with us.